Very quick word about dyslexia and the law. There's been loads of education acts and loads of business acts and loads of legal documentation about dyslexia, stretching back to, I think 1996 was when the Treaty of Amsterdam was first sort of initiated, but it came out in 1997, something like that. It's all come to a head, in Britain at least, in 2010 with the Equalities Act. Now, the Equalities Act specifically defines a disability. A disability is defined as that which significantly impairs your day-to-day life on a long-term basis. So it gives you significant difficulties in day-to-day living over a long-term period of time. Dyslexia can fall into this category. Not everybody who's got dyslexia is disabled, by the way. I think it's a very small percentage, 3%, 4%, something like that. But dyslexia does fall into this category. Employers, therefore, have a legal responsibility to make what they call reasonable adjustments. What are reasonable adjustments? Well, let's assume for a minute an employer works in an old Tudor house, rickety walls, Tudor house. Is he expected to put a lift shaft in there? No, probably isn't. Or let's assume another employer works from her home and employs people on an ad hoc basis. Well, she doesn't have that much money to make so many expensive reasonable adjustments. But things like communication adjustments are not that hard. So let's have a look at some time management. If you're the boss of a company, time management isn't hard to get through. Make your instructions simple, make them clear, give them one at a time. Don't give people really complex timetables. First you do this, then you do this, then you do this. Send reminders, speak to people about the time management, that kind of thing. Reading issues. Don't send tons and tons of emails that people have to read through, because the more you read through, the harder it gets. Did you realize that? And if people have to read through so many different emails, they probably won't quite care, or they won't take it in, or they won't register it, or they just stop reading. And we go, oh, it's their fault, they've stopped reading. Well, not really, because we're piling too much onto them. Other things we can do with reading, we can make sure that when we write something, we write it in the correct font. For instance, Verdana, Helvetica, Lilo Wadi is a really great font. Don't write really close typed small fonts with serif. It doesn't tend to work. So these reading things. Writing, what about speech to text assistive technology? Why not? What about a scribe? Why does everybody have to write the same thing in exactly the same way? And with verbal communication issues, as long as we make our communication clear and concise, it's usually better communication. This is all we need to do most of the time to comply with the law. Our internet sites are really easy to make them comply with the law. Get rid of those bloody drop-down menus, by the way. They really annoy me. I was on a website recently and my cursor kept touching these drop-down menus, and I was trying to read something and all this writing kept cascading down in front of me. I couldn't do it. I gave up. This website lost my custom, effectively, because it wasn't dyslexia friendly. If you have moving images, it's harder for a computer to read those moving images or moving words. A computer can't read those moving words. And so what you're doing is you're distracting people, especially with dyslexia or Ehlers syndrome. The computer won't read them. It's not really very, very kind. It's not really very friendly. But all you need to do is remember entrance and egress. Okay, so when people come in, they need to know clearly where they need to go. When they leave, they need to know where they need to go. These signage, that's really simple to do. Fire signs. Most people have got their fire signs, their fire safety signs. Really small writing. Don't do that, that's silly. Don't put things in really small writing if it's important. When people have contracts, the small print may be really important. People can't read small print. Don't do small print. Small print's stupid. Okay, if you do that, you're actually breaking the Equalities Act. In different countries, it's different. In America, for instance, different states have different legislation. In different countries within the European Union, different countries have different legislation. Try to find out what the legislation is in your country or in your state. In different countries outside the European Union, there's going to be a completely different view of dyslexia. So, for instance, in China, they have a different view of dyslexia because they see it as a phonological reading issue a lot of the time. And actually, when they have a logographic script, they don't have the phonological problems that we would have with an alphabetic script. So the Chinese laws are different from European laws and American laws. So do have a look at the laws in your country, your region, or your state. Most of the time, the laws do tell you that you have a responsibility to help people with dyslexia or to make life easier for those of us with dyslexia. But actually, the things you have to do in order to make life easier are not that hard. If you want a little bit more information, drop us a line. It's not that hard. I'll give you a bit of a heads up and a bit of a help. Thanks very much. Hope this was useful. Hope it's given you some food for thought. And please like, share, and get the conversation going. Cheers.